My final grades are in. Let's rank my top 15 wide receivers of the 2024 NFL Draft. This and more coming up next.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Locked On family? Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson, always on the ones and twos. You can find and follow me on X at DP_NFL. I am a senior draft analyst, and thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout for being our everydayers. On today's show, I am ranking my top 15 graded wide receivers of the 2024 NFL draft class. And speaking of wide receivers of this draft class, we have a special guest. Louisville star wide receiver Jamari Thrash joins us to close the show out so you get to know about him, his draft process, and every single thing else, guys. But before we get into that, we got to talk about today's episode being brought to you by Monopoly Go. I admit it, I have a competitive side, and it is a big fan of Monopoly Go, the mobile hit twist on classic Monopoly. So join your friends and download Monopoly Go, now free on the App Store or Google Play. Let's talk about it, guys. My top 15 graded wide receivers. My grades are in, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a sneak peek here, guys. Receiver-wise, in terms of grades, I have 22 receivers graded between round 1 to the end of round 3. So I'm telling you now, yes, this is a loaded class, man. A loaded class of wide receivers, guys. But let's get into it. Number 1, Marvin Harrison Jr. At number 2, Rome Odunze. All right, we're going to talk about that in a second. At number 3, Malik Neighbors. So the big 3, no changes. At number 4, Keon Coleman from Florida State. At number 5, Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. At wide receiver 6, Xavier Worthy out of Texas. At wide receiver 7, Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. Wide receiver 8, Adonai Mitchell from Texas. Wide receiver 9, Ladd McConkey out of Georgia. And wide receiver 10, I have Jalen McMillan out of Washington. At wide receiver 11, I have Ricky Pearsall out of Florida. And wide receiver 12, I have Jermaine Burton out of Alabama. Wide receiver 13, I have Jalen Polk out of Washington. Wide receiver 14, I have Troy Franklin out of Oregon. And wide receiver 15, I have Roman Wilson out of Michigan. And guys, let's talk about Rome Odunze over Malik Neighbors. For me, it's more so looking at these guys, I feel like Rome against man-to-man coverage is a better route runner. I think he runs more routes. He's a better route runner. Malik runs a lot of hitches and go routes and stuff like that. But I feel like watching Rome, he showcased the ability to separate against man-to-man coverage against the number 1 type corners on the outside. I look at Malik Neighbors, both of them, they're literally separated by a half a point. I have both of them graded as Pro Bowl caliber guys. Now, let's go down and continue to talk about it. When I look at Rome, I think he's a prototypical X, just like Marv. This young man dominates at the catch point. But it's all about when the game is on the line, when defenses know who's getting, when defenses know the quarterback has to get the ball to someone. He's got to convert this third down. They need this touchdown. Who did Michael Penix look to time and time again in 2023? And defenses knew that he was looking at him. It was Rome Odunze, man. You know what I mean? And this is a guy that can play. He's so smooth in and out of his cuts and his breaks, being able to sink, drive. He sells double moves well. He has enough athleticism and speed to sell vertical, but also it's the back shoulder fade. It's the body control. It's the spatial awareness. It's the strong-handedness. It's the catch point. Throwing fades in the red zone. I'm throwing those to Rome Odunze over Malik Neighbors time and time again. Rome is outstanding from 20 to 20. Rome is one of the best from 20 to goal line, 20 to the back of the end zone. He's up there, man. And he's one of the best receivers in this class when it comes down to being in those money situations and knowing that there's nobody else that you need to throw this ball to, Michael Penix. I think it was against Oregon State. He did that to close the game. He did it against Oregon the first game, right? Remember the fade on the touchdown in the low red zone? Yes. Rome Odunze is that type of guy. But again, Malik Neighbors, only a half point lower than him, man. Only a half point. So don't complain. Don't come at me on Twitter, guys, for that. But you already know that Marvin's number 1, like I said, Rome's number 2, Malik's number 3. I still like Keon Coleman. Despite the 4.61, he ran the fastest time in the gauntlet at the combine. And that to me matters so much more because you're running full speed, trying to catch a pass and catch multiple passes, right? Did not have any issues with drops. He's strong-handed. He's physical. He's strong himself. Leaping ability. He's an explosive athlete with, when it comes down to leaping. He's more quick than fast, and that's fine. I think he's quick-footed for a big 6'3", 215-pound wide receiver. I think he can consistently improve and work on sinking his hips and driving out of his breaks and everything like that. Sometimes he doesn't sink at all, so I think like that is a part of his game that can improve. And he's working with one of the best wide receiver trainers, Delevante Diamond, man. He's working with that guy. He works with Tank Dell. He works with a lot of dudes, man. One of the best out in the game. And I expect Keon Coleman to be a better route runner in the NFL due to his training and what he's going to be asked to do compared to what he was at Florida State. Of course, you already know. If you're new here and you have not, go check the archives back during the season. I was talking about Xavier Legette, a.k.a. X-Man, for the longest. A.J. Brown, I've never said the Debo stuff. Really, I never really got on board with that. I think that he's more of the A.J. Brown type. You can use him as a power slot if you want to, an explosive power slot that can take the top off the defense, a young man that's explosive after the catch. He's physical in his route stems. He's just got to consistently work on winning with quickness and sometimes more finesse and agility at the line of scrimmage. Not saying that it's not in his bag. It's more so truthfully, I said the same thing about Jamar Chase in college. Jamar doesn't care. You want to fight at the line? I'm cool with that. And Xavier Legette is very similar to that. Xavier Worthy, man, listen, route running, 4.21 speed. He can separate. He can literally flip the field possession as a punt returner or just a deep ball, man. He had a beautiful deep ball, just like in terms of tracking the ball, sure-handed in that situation. He's had some concentration drops here and there throughout his career, but overall, man, the main thing you're going to question is the size, battling at the catch point, winning at the catch point, strength at the catch point. But I think this guy can walk in and be that explosive wide receiver to an offense. Depending on the situation, be that explosive game breaker at wide receiver 3. Now, up next, I got Brian Thomas Jr. I love Brian Thomas Jr.'s skill set, athleticism, go ball, catch point. He shows some flashes of working in the middle of the field. But it doesn't feel like he's completely comfortable with that just yet. And I think that he will get there. He could get there. I think route running wise, he can consistently improve. He's not as stiff as some of my, my counterparts that I'm cool with. Some people in the league, they have told me, I feel like he's kind of stiff in the hips. I didn't see that as much. I think he does sink sink at the top of his routes and rotates pretty well. You just want to see consistency catching and tracking the ball in the middle of the field with bodies around him. But overall, man, I think he has a high ceiling and be a high impact player, maybe more of a specific role type for an offense as a rookie. But I think the ceiling is very much high. Adonai Mitchell, man, route running, he showed raw athleticism and explosiveness at the combine. Catches the ball well, knows how to separate, plays with great tempo and pace. Sometimes he's kind of like, I think me and Keith may have talked about it at one point. He's like that and one dribbler, that basketball, that guard, that forward, whoever, that know they have a nice handle and they do too many moves. Sometimes it's a tween, sidestep, shoot the 3. It shouldn't be tween behind the back, sham God, in and out. It shouldn't be all of that. Sometimes he does. The best way to explain it, he does some of the routes that we see at the 7-on-7s. He kind of does those in games. And then also when he's not getting the football, that was my biggest concern. Talked to some scouts about a couple weeks ago to a month ago, and they was like, man, we have some concerns about his football character. Is he going to be locked in? Is he tapped in at a consistent basis? And when I'm having those conversations and stuff like that over the phone, and I'm just like, that shows up on tape for me too. And I have that type of question. Ladd McConkey, route running, I think the high floor, he's a safe player. I don't think he has a like. I've seen Antonio Brown is a ceiling. I don't think he's there. I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think he's there. But I do think that at the floor, he's a high volume, explosive slot receiver that's a great route runner and can separate. Ricky Pearsall, Jermaine Burton, guys that can play the Z and the slot, but guys that can win down the field, win at the catch point. If you give them an opportunity to, love both of those guys. Jalen McMillan, getting into him, man. Him and Jalen Polk are two different receivers. I think Polk, to me, is better after the catch. I think he's stronger with a more physical frame and build and more density in his build. Where Jalen McMillan, I think, not even think he's faster, but also he's a better route runner. I think both have to adjust to dealing with press man coverage in the NFL because they didn't see a ton of it in the Pac-12. But both of them got like day 2 picks, round 2 picks actually. And then to close out, Troy Franklin and Roman Wilson. Roman Wilson, the Senior Bowl showed that he's better than the tape from Michigan. And I just look at it from an aspect of it's all about what you're asked to do, not about what you can do a lot of times. And he wasn't asked to play full-fledged receiver release package, great route running or anything like that. We saw it at not the combine. We saw it at the Senior Bowl where he was out there cooking the first 2 days. I don't think he practiced or played in the game on day 3 or played in the game at the end of the weekend. He had a strong week. And then, like I said, the guy I had right in front of him was Troy Franklin out of Oregon. I talked about him recently. We did stock up, stock down. He was my stock down player. There's just concerns about strength and playing through strength, playing through contact, handling contact. Shows up all in this film. I think he's a good route runner. He has a good release package. Tracking the ball, drops, sure-handedness, being a natural hands catcher. I don't see that with him. But the speed is there. I think he's a good wide receiver 2/3. I think, at most, I think he's a wide receiver 2. But again, second round grade for him as well. So at the end of the day, guys, that's my top 15 wide receivers graded for the 2024 NFL draft class. When you talk about graded wide receivers, we have Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash coming up next. You get to know and learn as much about this young man as possible, asking some good questions. He came up with some good answers. So stay tuned for Louisville wide receiver Jamari Thrash coming up next on the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula of winning championships, is also what keeps your number one ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and so much more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices that you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Keep your number one ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. We have a special guest on the show today, Louisville star wide receiver Jamari Thrash. Jamari, first off, bro, it's draft week. It's the week that you've been preparing for since the end of the season. Just kind of talk to us, man. How you feeling right now to know that sometime later this week you're going to hear your name called during the 2024 NFL Draft?
To be honest with you, I'm really taking everything day at a time. It hasn't necessarily really hit me yet, but I don't think it'll hit me until draft day comes. But I really just been taking it a day at a time. Really just been trying to stay calm, cool, and collected.
For sure. I mean, you had a good season, good 2-year stretch, which we'll get into Georgia State in a second. But talk to us a little bit about your draft process, man. You think about going down to Mobile, the Senior Bowl. Shout out to Jim Nagy, that's my guy. And you going out there, man. What did you want to prove, and do you feel like you accomplished your goal down in Mobile?
Yes, sir. I definitely do. When I went to Mobile, I wanted to show coaches that I'm versatile. I could play inside, outside. I could play all 3 positions. And I think I did a good job of that weekend in Mobile.
No, I agree. You definitely came out there. You took care of business from the route running, the one on ones, the team drills. Especially with a lot of the talent, there was a lot of talent out there, receiver at DB, and to be able to stand out in that crowd was a big thing. But like we fast forward a little bit to the combine. You know what I mean? For you coming in and having a good combine performance as well. You're talking about we always talk about stacking days when it comes down to or stacking events in the draft cycle. What was your combine experience like? What was your mentality going into like the testing, field drills, and everything?
I had a great experience. Just being around a group of guys who are headed to where I'm headed. And just being around those guys and getting different experiences. You got different guys from different cities, different schools. So just getting being able to bond with those guys. And then I also got a chance to talk to Steve Smith at the combine as well. So I talked to different legends at the combine. But at the same time, like you said, just stacking days, and just waiting. Going to the combine, I knew I wasn't gonna be the fast. I know I'm gonna be the strongest. But I just just want to go out there and do my thing. So, um, yeah.
You say you talked to Steve Smith at the combine. What was that like? You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure you grew up, you saw him, dominate on the field for the Panthers and spent time in Baltimore towards the end of his years with the Ravens. What was that like? And did he give you any specific tips that you kept in your back pocket after that?
Actually got to talk to him a little bit more at my pro day. He came to my pro day. I actually got to talk to him a little bit more. But at the combine, he just told me that he liked my film. And I asked him, where does he see me in the league? And he told me, I can see you playing outside, but he was like, also see you playing in a slot. But he just told me, when I went to the Senior Bowl, he told me that he saw my Senior Bowl film as well. So he told me, I think he said I did a good job of showing my versatility as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's go back a little bit to recruiting, man. Coming out of high school, being kind of a 3-star recruit, how did that impact your mindset going into college, into Georgia State? Did it place a chip on your shoulder?
Um, Not I nah, I don't want to say it did, but I feel like I was one of the best players in the state around that time. I think because I always produced, I always had good numbers, so I wasn't big on rankings. I just always just needed my chance. When I, I just needed my opportunity from school, and Georgia State ended up being that school for me.
For sure, for sure. What talk to us about some of the stuff that you learned. At the end of the day, everything's a journey in life. So we learn from different experiences during your 3-4 years at Georgia State. What's something that you learned that you keep with you?
The biggest thing that I learned from Georgia State will have to be being disciplined and just waiting. Sometimes, when you come in as a freshman, you want to play right away, but there also is a lot of things, you got to do, heading into that season. You got to earn your coach's trust. Um, Also learn from the guys ahead of you as well. So those are my biggest takeaways from my time at Georgia State.
Do you think, looking back on it, like you said, being able to be patient, wait your turn coming in as a freshman. Now you're about to do that all over again in a sense. Going to the NFL, being that freshman in the NFL. Do you think that tenure and what you learned from Georgia State is going to help you acclimate yourself once you get to the league?
Yes, sir, most definitely. I also feel like, once I get there, hopefully, I don't know where I'm gonna go, but if I get in the room, I might have a vet in the room as well with me, and that could teach me the ropes, and also, soak up a lot of game from the vet.
For sure, man. You had a breakout campaign in 2022. 62 receptions, 1,123 yards receiving. You averaged 18 yards per catch, and you had 7 receiving touchdowns. What went into your mindset that coming off of that season, heading into the off season, to where you said, you know what, I want to go ahead into the portal and transfer to Louisville?
Well, coming out of high school, I always felt like I said I always produced, so I always felt like I was a ACC, SEC kind of guy. Don't get me wrong,
Hmm.
I enjoyed my time at Georgia State, and my head coach, my high school head coach, he always told me. Well, when I committed, he told me, don't be afraid to be a big fish in a small pond. So that was something that always stuck with me as well. So I never, have any regret about going to Georgia State. I never had any neglect about going to Georgia State. I enjoyed my time there, and I appreciate my coaches there. But what led me to go to Louisville was like I said, I always feel like I was a ACC, SEC kind of receiver. So I also just wanted to, rise my draft stock as well. When I went there, going to get different competition, I knew that I was gonna be playing on TV a lot more, and it just made a lot of sense to transfer and go play up a little bit. And what made me go to Louisville was I saw what Charlie Jones. Well, I saw what Coach Brown did with Charlie Jones the year before. Because Charlie Jones led the country that year in receiving yards, and I want to say receiving touchdowns. But just seeing what Brown did with Charlie Jones and knowing I played the same position as Charlie Jones, it just made a lot of sense.
Nah, and yeah, Charlie Jones ended up, trying to think he transferred to Purdue, had a
Hmm.
good year, and ended up getting drafted to the Bengals. I
Bengals.
think on day 2. I think maybe in third round, maybe at the worst was fourth round. So a lot, that's a good, it's a good decision to take that step up, and you proved yourself, right? Because I know a lot of, especially with the draft questions, if you stayed at Georgia State, one of the big questions would have been, well, how is he going to handle, could he really be a big fish in the big pond, right? Or in
Hmm.
the sea is in a sense, and going to Louisville and playing against the Florida States and the other Power 5 schools and having the success you had is definitely painted that picture and painted the right picture, right? But let's talk about something, man. Like, what's the most exciting feeling for you, right? So for context, you score, either way, it's an 80-yard touchdown. Would you rather score? Is it more exciting to run by a guy for an 80-yard touchdown, the deep pass, or catch a slant underneath, make a couple people miss, and then take it the rest of the way?
I take the slant, make a couple people miss, and take it to the house. I take that. It's just something about making people miss and showing off that long speed. When you run, you hear the crowd get louder and louder. So it's just something about that, that gives me a rush. So I take that
For
one.
sure. We've all been there, either as a player or a fan. It's halftime, and the scoreboard is not looking good. You're feeling low, not sure you or your team can pull out a win. That's when you dig deep, lift your head up, and say to yourself, time to get back in the game. Pull off some bank heists and take as much of my friend's money as I possibly can. That's right, the smash hit mobile game Monopoly Go. Let's let you compete with your friends to get the most richest and the biggest empire. It's the monopoly you love, but on your phone, anytime, with tons of new twists, including leaderboards to compare your progress to your buddies. There's so much to do, like play on countless dynamic monopoly boards. Make your friends bankrupt by smashing their landmarks with a wrecking ball. You can even work with your friends to crack open community chests and in tournaments to get extra rewards and climb the leaderboard. So get back out there, put your game face on, and download Monopoly Go now free on the App Store or Google Play. I like that. You as a receiver, one thing I appreciate with your game is that you're never in a hurry. Like, you play with your own tempo, your own pace, and you play with great tempo and pace, right? And it's hard for DBs. I see it on tape. I think you had a viral moment. I think it was against Florida State, where right sideline. I think you ran. I think it was a comeback or a curl route where you dropped the guy, crossed him over at the top of the route and broke back on him, and you know what I mean? And it went viral on Twitter for a good portion of that night. For
Hmm.
you, with your tempo and your style of play, where does that come from?
It definitely comes from film study. I watch a lot of film. I watch a lot of film. If I ain't doing it, I'm watching film. So just going into that week, that was a big week for us, and seeing, I just wanted, dissect each corner and see, what corner is good at what this corner do differently from this corner. How is this corner interacting with that safety? So I take a lot of time in my film study just to dissect the corners and dissect the defense and see how and pick up on different tendencies. And throughout the game, I'll make my adjustment to see how he's playing me versus see how the other corner on the other side is playing me. So I'm gonna just make adjustments, but at the same time, I still want to play fast. 'Cause I feel like, and I also feel like that slows the game down for me as well. So yeah,
For
that's
sure.
pretty much where it come from.
Okay. And I think that's a big part. At the end of the day, that's a big part of the game, regardless, right? Whether no matter if you're playing high school, college, or the NFL, you got to watch the film. You got to know your opponent, right, so that you can be able
Hmm.
to find the best path to success. Kind of talk to us. Like you said, to kind of expound on that. You said you study a lot of film. Do you study any current or even former NFL receivers to study their game? And if who are they, and what do you pull away from them?
So I probably say like around my sophomore year, that's when I really started dissecting the film. So I used to watch a lot of Devontae. Like I used to watch these guys in college. I used to watch a lot of Devontae, uh, Jefferson, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb. So I watched those guys in college, and to see those guys go in the league and tear it up, one of their first to 2 years in the league. Um, it showed me, showed me a lot. But I also go back and watch their film as well now. Like I watch a lot of Devontae, Justin Jefferson. I watched a little bit of Amari Cooper, but I haven't really just got into Amari Cooper's film, and I haven't gotten the CD Lamb film this past year. But I also watch a lot of Devontae.
And you know what the common theme with a lot of those guys are, they know how to get open. Those are route
Hmm.
runners, guys that not just good athletes, but know how to use, like you talk about, like we just talked about, the tempo, the pacing, on top of their athleticism to be able to get open and then make plays. Especially CD Lamb, he's one of the best run after the catch receivers in the game. So that's a good group of guys to study, man. Really good group of guys to study. Shout out to Amari Cooper, one of the more underrated receivers in the league. Talk to me, man. Like your pregame playlist, right? You on the field, you getting ready, you stretching. What's on Jamari Thrash's pregame playlist?
Um, I'm gonna have a little baby on there. I'm having a little Rallo, no cap. Uh, I used to be a young boy fan, but I kind of fell off young boy. But I have some young boy in there too. It depends on what kind of mood I'm in. Cause sometimes I might just want to chill,
Yeah,
calm my nerves. But
you're
some
definitely
days,
not chilling with young boy. That's not happening.
yeah, yeah. So I'm saying like some games, I might want to get pumped, and I just come some young boy.
Okay. So definitely seem like you tend to want to be on the hype side, get yourself really going, man. Kind of talk to the listeners and the fans. Those NFL fans, they're gonna hear this. So I always like to ask this question: scout yourself. What's your biggest strength, and then what's that area that you've been working on for you? A lot of training you've been doing. What's that one area you've been really working on this off season to get ready for the league?
One of my biggest strengths, I definitely say I'm a smart receiver. Like I said, I watch a lot of film. I pick up on a lot of things quickly. Um, Definitely my route running and my ability to, my run after the catch. I think those are my biggest strengths. Something that I'm weak at, or one of my weaknesses, probably my 50-50 contested catches. But what I'm doing right now is trying to make my hands stronger. Early in the video, I had actually had the gripper in my hand, trying to make sure I get my hand stronger. So that's something that I've just been working on as well.
Now, I appreciate the transparency because that's a big thing, right? Self awareness and knowing where you can get better. You know what I mean? And typically, guys who have that mindset consistently work to get better. So, looking forward to that. And then, two more questions. Kind of tell those same listeners, these NFL fans who will eventually hear your name called this weekend and know that you're going to be a new receiver on their team. What kind of player is the NFL franchise and NFL fan base getting with Jamari Thrash?
First and foremost, they're going to get a leader on and off the field. They're going to get a hard worker, playmaker. I think whatever organization I go to, I think just me as a person, and me as a football player, I think I'll be able to fit in whatever system I go to pretty well.
Okay, love to hear. And lastly, man, one of my favorite questions: what is your why? Why do you do it at the level that you do it? What motivates you?
Other than just my family, knowing where I come from, knowing the sacrifices I had to make. I probably say my why just comes from me. Football is just something that I fell in love with at the age of. I probably say I fell in love with football probably my senior high school. Well, after once I was going to college, just seeing okay, like I can actually play football now, like because I'm not really too big on myself. Like I never try to get too high, I never try to get too low, but I always just never thought growing up, you always want to go to the NFL. That's a big dream, but just actually knowing that I'm actually finna get ready to live that moment is kind of surreal to me. So, but football's something that I love to do. Like watching, like I said, like I'm a big film guy. Like sometimes, all I know is football. So my why is just my love for the game.
Okay, I appreciate it, and we appreciate it, man. Appreciate the fans are gonna love, listening back to this and just knowing what type of person, what type of player they're getting, man. And that's a big thing. And always remember, talent gets you drafted, character keeps you in it. And I'm excited to see where you go. Can't wait to hear your name called. I'll be texting you, staying tapped in and locked in with you, brother.
Yes, sir, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
And that's my sit down with Louisville star wide receiver Jamari Thrash. Guys, thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and everyday shot for being our everydayers. And you already know what I love to tell you. Come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.